Welcome back, guys. Yeah, I'm on a swing. So I want to touch base a little bit more now that we're in country on why I keep saying you need to shed the shit. Okay. Um, as you know, I've mentioned this more than a few times. You just have to let stuff go. You won't survive here if you don't let some stuff go. If you're leaving your country because you feel that it's all gone to hell in a handbasket, I don't think you survive here. I really don't. So let's get into that in a little bit more detail. Let's start with the fundamentals of what you need in your life in order to make a move like this. Okay? This is not a tourist thing. Okay? And unfortunately, many of us, when we travel, we take canned tours. Okay, now that's what Lynn and I did to get our feet wet when we did Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. We took a small cruise. It was kind of an introduction to the country, and it's a nice way to go as an introduction. And then in 2019, we also did a similar thing where we did India over 3 weeks and did 3 different locations. It's not the same thing. It's just not even close to getting away from the tourist stuff and all of that sort of thing. Now, I want to digress a little bit into diving, skin diving, scuba diving, that type of thing. And even here, where I see a lot of guys doing a lot of vlogging about diving and stuff in the Philippines and other parts of the world, eventually it cools down, and the amount of diving that they do starts to peel back to maybe a little bit more normal cycle of the event of diving. Now, if that's your main key, then that's your main key, right? For Lynn and I right now, we have a more global focus, and that is Lynn wants to continue to work. She wants to provide for her family. She wants to set up a future a little bit more. She's always been the funder of education in the Philippines for her family, and so again, that's her core mission in life. Okay, don't get me wrong, we have a great relationship and all of that sort of thing, but I appreciate her desire to do this, and I support her desire to do this. But if your goal, let's say, is to be single, that's great. That's also great. But what do you want to get out of this move? If it's to get away from the stresses of your country, then you got to get over the stresses of your country first, because the stresses here aren't the same, but they are there. Okay, and what you don't want to do is substitute an error, right? How often do you hear that we end up dating the same woman that we divorced? I know I did. I dated the same personality for a number of years and then realized that I was completely off my nut. Not in so much as that she was a bad lady or any of that type of thing, but the goals had changed too, right? And that's what happened in our relationship. The goals had changed. But let's get down to some of the nuts and bolts of living in the Philippines. Noise, the incessant motorbikes, okay? It's like a group of Harleys going by every single day. Different exhaust system, but you know what I mean. It's constant noise. And even in the background, you can probably hear horns honking, vroom, 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 and the traffic everywhere, because the road systems are just that bad. To give you an example, we took a trip with John and Floor. We We drove all the way from Angeles to Cebu. We did a freeway system from Angeles down past Manila along the new Skyway and out the other side, and that progressed for about another, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. Sure, we were able to get up to 80 and 100 kilometers an hour through there where the traffic wasn't too heavy, but our average speed was 50 kilometers an hour destination to destination, which meant in many locations we were doing 30 kilometers an hour because you've got pedicabs pulling out, you've got all of this type of thing. And if you're not a motorcycle rider, I am, but it's a different way of riding a motorcycle here, guys. They shoot for holes. If you saw our video last year, we had a motorcycle accident where the motorcycle decided he was going to shoot for the hole. He was a young fellow. He wasn't anticipating that because it was a traffic light start that everybody was accelerating, and his knee went between the tire and the bumper. How he hasn't got a torn grill, a torn groin, I have no idea, because he literally tore that entire bumper, plastic mind you, but tore it right off the whole front of the car. The grill, the bumper, the whole thing came off. So you run into stuff like that, and you know, there's no real car insurance thing here. We've been fortunate, though we do not drive at night, for obvious reasons. And what are those obvious reasons? Not so obvious for people unless you've lived here for a while. Motorcycles, no headlights, no tail lights, blind turning on the road because they have this rule, first in, first out. And the motorcycles take it literally. So they pull onto the road at 10 kilometers an hour, first on. You're doing 80. And yeah, there are spurts where you do 80, and yay! You gotta hope there's nobody in the other lane coming at you, because they do a lot of pulling onto the road blind. I think they feel in some ways that if they pull onto the road, if they don't see you, then they can't be responsible. It's the only reason, because there's no self-preservation in that kind of move, right? Road system. We've pointed out in some of our videos that they have double-laned a lot of it. But every person that lives along the highway should be sending thank you notes to the federal government or the provincial government or the local barangay saying, thank you for giving me a parking space. And a lot of these concrete locations, they move their little sorry stores, slowly creep out into the road. So you got to get used to all that stuff, right? You can honk your horn, people just look, okay, I'm aware that you're there. They don't move. They don't move. All you're doing is signaling to them that you are coming. There is no intention of moving. What roosters? Now, you know, that's a 3 o'clock in the morning thing here because sunrise is about 5. But there is another thing that I strongly suggest that you guys do. Adjust your thinking of what a clock is. Rise with the sun. Why? It's a lot cooler at that time of day. You can get a lot of hours in a lot cooler, you know, northern summertime temperatures before solar noon, where it can get scorching here. And so if you're going to bed earlier, all the better, you know, for me anyway. My lifestyle is totally shifted. I was a total night owl, and now, you know, I'm not that night owl anymore. Boy, I'm up early when I'm in the Philippines to enjoy the day. It's quieter. The motorcycle noise that you're hearing now is almost non-existent. You know, it's peace at that time of day. So you can get yourself grounded. Now remember, 12-hour days. There's a little bit of a shift in time, but it's basically a 12-hour, 365-day country, right? A little bit of a shift, not a big one. So you've got a lot of hours of cooling in the evening too, so you can minimize the amount of time that you have your aircon on. So we find that if we simply put the aircon down to about 22 degrees and we cool down the room so we can go to sleep, right before we go to sleep, we turn the thing off, and by the time you get through the evening and stuff, it's cooled down nicely, and the daytime hasn't hit your house yet to warm it all up. Breezes, you want to be able to have a location where you can enjoy a breeze. You don't want to be stuck in a place where the aircon's running all the time. The electricity costs have gone up here twofold. It's not necessarily about the electric company raising its rate. That's been pretty minor, but the administration cost of that rate has gone up. The companies themselves are looking for an extra centavo here and there and everywhere. So in our one building there, they're now charging us 2.5 pesos, I believe, 2.5 pesos per kilowatt over and above the existing electric bill. Water bills haven't changed that much. That's pretty stagnant. Let me go back to side roads. Side roads, very few of them are fixed. If they do have concrete, often they can be quite broken and all that sort of thing. Now, at the same time, those are the broken roads, and they are catching up on getting some of these more provincial roads done. So they've got fresh concrete on them. But it's not uncommon to go down like the main highway that's in front of us here, and the side roads that leave there to go into the actual city. The city and the highways department haven't figured out who's going to pay for that little piece of concrete, so it's not done. So to merge onto the road, you're not, flying up to the intersection. You have to go bumpity bumpity bump. Noise, I think, is probably one of the bigger ones, guys. Culturally, I think everybody can get through the cultural issues. To me, that's part of why you move, right? I've said in this old carcass more than a few times, what a wonderful thing to be able to live two lives in this old carcass. And how many of your friends can say the same thing, and them living in their stagnant, linear lives? For a lot, that is comfort, that is grounding, that is what they need, okay? For some of us, the need to stay home can be pretty high. And I understand that. But maybe your pension doesn't support it. And why I drive home so firmly. You're now in another country and you have to budget. Even those people who have good funds have to budget. I do find some of the guys like that are often the ones that find themselves stone broke for the next 10 or 15 days. No food left in the kitchen. They're so used to eating out, maybe they don't even have a stove in their condo. I do run into a lot of that stuff. Now, we've moved away from Angolese now. We will be focusing on Cebu. So that type of thing I won't run into that as much anymore. But it's locked into the old bean here. Locked into the bean. The fear I have for Canadians right now and Americans is the excitement of coming here and seeing how far your money can go and living in the moment. Dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Don't do it. Budget. You got to work within the thresholds, guys. You have to. Do not look at the 57, 58, 59 of the US dollar. Only think 50, because you are. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your anticipation is. I don't care how you think that you are the king of all kings and think that your country is always going to be top dog. Never, never. It just doesn't happen. Okay, there's always cycles, and which is all the more reason to shed the politics, because it does not matter who's in power. Your currency, your economics and stuff are rarely tied to your governments. They use it. cycles of the world are the cycles of the world because corporations and stuff are going to do what they need to do, and that's the biggest effect. Now, videoke and white noise. If you expect to wake up in the morning and have a whole day on a Sunday of nice and quiet and all that sort of thing, wrong answer. Sunday is videoke day. Everybody's got a day off. Everybody fires up the videoke machine. Sundays are church and party time. And maybe a little spillover from Saturday. We sure saw that last night when we decided to drive to our property and back. And the number of people that were driving drunk, oh my God, they were bobbing and weaving all over the place. Motorcycles and cars. I kid you not. Anyway, what I suggest here though to get around some of the videoke issues is white noise generation, okay? Now that could be as simple as just a fan in the room. That might be enough to do it for you. But I have now hard drives full of music, background type music, that really helps take that edge off while you're in your unit, where you don't have to, you know, maybe hear that guy at 2 o'clock in the morning that's decided to come home, pound it out of his brain, and fire up the videoke machine. We experienced it more than a few times, and that wasn't just in Angolaise, which tends to be a little bit more party town. We've run into it in Cebu as well, and we've been in, you know, some fairly quality hotels here in the Philippines, but you know, you can't help what happens across the street, right? So a bank of music where you can have it as background, I like stressing that, because we have run into foreigners who decide that the way to drown it out is to rock up their music, and quite often they're in buildings that have a fair amount of foreigners, and then they get on the bad side of the foreigner. So think about that stuff, guys. Again, this is all just, you know, shift a little bit and you can actually navigate the Philippines. I kid you not, it's not that hard. Anyway, guys, if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe. House build resumes tomorrow. Later, Gators.